Turn to the Democratic nominee for Senate in Florida, standing by patiently, Congresswoman Val Demings. Congresswoman, thanks so much for your time this morning. 4 days till election day. The polls have Marco Rubio up by a few points there. What's going to make the difference down the stretch?
Well, let me say this. It's great to be with you. And I so enjoyed just listening to Joe's commentary. He said just about everything that I believe that I can say. But look, the people of Florida, my faith is in the people of Florida, the good people of Florida. Joe, I really do believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And I hope that the Republicans are a part of that, because right now they are not. Marco Rubio surely is not. You talk about back in the blue, well, the FBI are a part of the law enforcement family. Matter of fact, the top law enforcement family. I really think that voters in Florida are sick and tired of the foolishness, sick and tired of politics, and just want somebody who has the ability to put people first. And so my faith is in the voters of Florida. And, you know, I've traveled from the Panhandle down to the Keys. And 4 days from Election Day, I'm excited about this race.
Congresswoman Demings, good morning. Jonathan Lemire, you are well suited, former police chief, to talk about the issue of crime, which, of course, has become one of the major topics here in the stretch run of the campaign. Republicans suggesting that Democrats, they're too soft on crime. We know we're not even going to address defund the police. We know that's bogus. But talk about the concerns that Republicans and some voters are voicing about rising crime, particularly in areas run by Democrats. What's your response?
Well, Jonathan, thank goodness that the Republicans are finally at the table wanting to talk about crime. It's not something that we should only talk about during political season. It's something that I focus on every day. When I was the police chief in Orlando, the reduction of violent crime was my #1 concern. But that responsibility was not just on the men and women in blue. I involved the community in our efforts by saying, look, everybody counts and everybody's accountable. By holding everybody accountable and involving them in that process, we were able to reduce violent crime by over 40%. And guess what? That was under a Democratic mayor, and I was a Democratic police officer or police chief. But political party did not matter. Matter of fact, I could not tell you the political party of the overwhelming majority of men and women at the police department. We had a mission that was to focus on crime, and we were laser focused on that mission. But Jonathan, we can't just focus on the men and women at the police department. We know we got to hire the brightest and the best, make sure they have the best equipment, the best training. But we've also got to deal with some of the social ills that cause decay in communities in the first place: poverty, or high unemployment, low wages, quality of education, health care. All of those things. We've got to hold America to its promise, yes, in criminal justice reform, but in all things, dealing with some of the social ills. By doing both, we can have stronger, safer communities.
Adrian.
Congresswoman, great to see you this morning, and good luck on Tuesday. We're all, or at least I'm rooting for you. I want to talk about closing arguments. This is obviously the time where, you know, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are putting out a bunch of ads driving home their closing argument. It does seem to me that in races across the country, Democrats are closing on an aspirational message, really talking about the things the Biden administration has been able to do by putting more money in people's pockets, by having a plan to address inflation. You're also seeing on the Republican side, the New York Times just put out a piece yesterday saying that Republicans in Congress want to cut Social Security and Medicare. Those are two of the things that they plan to do immediately if they regain control of the House and Senate. Can you sort of talk a little bit about what your closing argument is and what you think is going to matter to those key swing voters that will ultimately decide this election for you?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that question. And look, I am running this race as the daughter of a maid and a janitor. I certainly understand what it feels like to struggle, what it feels like to try to make ends meet, what it feels like to keep a roof over your head and food on the table. As I'm traveling the state, I'm talking to voters about the costs in grocery stores, the costs in other places, the costs of gas at the pumps, the lack of affordable housing in Florida. But I also hear about the effects of climate change. It'd be nice to have a senator in Florida who actually believed in it and, guess what, wanted to do something about it. unbelievable flooding in South Florida. But people also, when we're talking about just the cost of everyday living, they're also talking about protecting constitutional rights. And I do believe we can do both. I'm doing in this race, and will do in the Senate, what I did as a police chief. That is to protect and serve. People do not want to lose constitutional rights, and we've seen it occur in this country for the first time in the history of this country. Women are fired up. And no, we do not want our daughters and our granddaughters to have less constitutional rights than we have. So guess what? We can do two things at one time. Work to lower costs. There's only one party working to do that right now, and that's the Democratic Party, but protect constitutional rights at the same time.
Democratic nominee for Florida Senate, Congresswoman Val Demings. Thank you so much for your service to America, and thank you for being with us this morning. We greatly appreciate it.